What if I told you that learning to code isn't about working harder, but changing how you approach it? When I started studying computer science, I barely knew anything about programming. I thought this might get hard, but I was willing to learn. So if you're at the beginning of your coding journey or somewhere stuck in the middle, here is what I wish somebody told me when I started.
Hi, I'm Raphael, a passionate developer and computer science teacher. Here you will find coding vlogs, step-by-step tutorials and motivation to start programming and to stay on track. At first I thought I was doing everything right. I was spending hours each day watching tutorials, reading documentations, taking notes, highlighting syntax like a good student. But I wasn't building, I wasn't struggling with the code. And that, I later realized, was the problem. Real learning doesn't happen when you're watching someone else do it. It happens when you try and fail, and then try again. There is a very specific kind of discomfort that comes from starting at a blank file, trying to figure out where to start. And that discomfort? That's where real learning begins. But I avoided it. I replaced it with comfort, with copy-paste success. And that delayed my progress more than I realized.
There is something sneaky about tutorial-based learning. It gives you the illusion of progress.
The dopamine rush of building something that works, without the actual skill of building something yourself. You feel like you're learning, but the moment the hand-holding stops, everything collapses. I started noticing this in my first programming assignments. Suddenly, the steps weren't clear. There were no pause buttons, no guide solutions, just me and a blinking cursor. And that's when the frustration kicked in. Not because I wasn't smart enough, but because I had skipped the hard part of learning. Thinking. It took me a while, but eventually I started to realize that I had to change my entire mindset. I had to stop thinking of programming as something I could study and start treating it like something I had to train like a sport. You don't become good at basketball by reading the rulebook. You become good by playing, by messing up, by getting blocked, by trying again. So I started doing exactly that. I stopped following tutorials for a while and started building tiny, imperfect projects. Most of them were broken, unfinished, embarrassing even. But they were mine. And with every failed attempt, I understood something a little bit deeper. Not just how to write code, but how to debug, how to break down a problem, how to sit with confusion instead of avoiding it. Here's something else no one told me. Learning to code can be incredibly isolating. In lectures or online tutorials, everything seems to make sense. But when you're alone at your desk at night, staring at an error you don't understand, it's easy to feel like you're the only one struggling. Everyone around you seems to be moving forward, submitting clean assignments, building cool side projects, sharing their wins online. And there you are, stuck in your code editor, wondering if you're just not cut out for this. But one thing that really helped me during this phase was something built into our curriculum. In the following semesters, we had to complete a series of pro-seminars, small group projects with weekly deadlines. Each group worked independently on mini projects over several weeks. It was still challenging. Often we had to figure things out without direct guidance, but the structure made a huge difference. We weren't completely alone anymore. Working in small teams meant we could support each other, share ideas, and solve problems together. The weekly deadlines kept us focused and gave us a clear goal to work toward. There was just enough pressure to stay motivated, but enough freedom to actually learn. That experience taught me something I hadn't learned from tutorials or lectures: how to collaborate, how to organize code with others, how to communicate ideas, and most importantly, how to keep moving forward, even when no one had the perfect answer. It reminded me, yes, learning to code can feel lonely, but it doesn't have to be. With the right people and the right structure, the journey becomes much more sustainable and a lot less discouraging. Today, AI tools like ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot or Cursor can play a valuable role as a learning partner. They can help explain confusing concepts in simple terms, suggest code snippets, or guide you when you're stuck. But there's a catch. Don't let AI just fix your code or give you answers blindly. Use it to think with you. Ask why something works, request alternative approaches, and test your own understanding. AI is a powerful tool to support your learning, but the real growth happens when you engage actively with a problem.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumb up and subscribe for more coding related content.
There's one moment in my coding journey I will never forget. Not because it was impressive, but because it changed how I saw the whole process. I was working on a small app, nothing fancy, just a small assignment. But no matter what I did, the app refused to update the data. I rewrote the logic, I rewatched every video, every tutorial. I even started over, and still nothing. I spent 2-3 days on it until I found the problem. One single typo, one problem with fetching the API data. I just sat there staring at the screen, half angry, half relieved. And then something shifted. I realized this is coding. Not getting it right at the first time, but being willing to debug, to dig, to keep on going, even when you're exhausted. It's not writing perfect code on the first try. It's not copying a working solution and having it magically fit into your own context. It's not about being a genius who instantly sees the answer. It's about the patience to track down problems that make no sense at first. It's about learning to read error messages, test assumptions, and follow a trail that doesn't always lead where you expect. It's about having the persistence to sit with your frustration and keep digging, even when it feels like you're not making any progress. From that point on, I started tracking something different. Not how fast I was learning, but how consistently I was showing up. I wrote down one thing I learned every day. Sometimes it was big, like understanding different ways to write functions in JavaScript. Sometimes it was tiny, like remembering the difference between let and const. But those small wins, they added up. And one day, without realizing it, I sat down to build something and I just started. No tutorial, no guide, just me and a problem to solve. It still broke, it still took time, but I didn't panic, I knew how to fix it. That's when I realized I wasn't a beginner anymore. So if you're at the beginning of your journey or stuck somewhere in the middle, here's what I wish someone told me when I started. You don't need to be a genius to learn to code. You just need to be consistent. Confusion isn't failure, it's feedback. Tutorials are a great starting point, but don't get stuck in an endless loop of watching dozens of them and the same topic. Pick one solid resource, follow it with intention, and then step away to try things out on your own. Don't just follow along. Pause, question, experiment. That's where real growth happens. It's okay to copy code, but make sure you come back and understand it. The biggest skill in programming isn't syntax, it's problem solving. And one thing that changed how I learn today, but wasn't available when I started my studies a few years ago, is AI as a study partner. Tools like ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot can now help explain concepts, suggest code snippets, or guide you when you're stuck. Back when I began, we didn't have these tools. But there's the key. AI isn't a shortcut, it's a tool to think with. Use it to deepen your understanding, ask questions, and explore alternatives. Don't let it do the thinking for you. Make it your personal tutor that helps you learn smarter. Don't wait until you feel ready to build something. You'll never feel ready. Start anyway. The fact that you're showing up, struggling, trying again, that is the path. That's what it looks like. So take a deep breath, keep on going. You're already further than you think. If this spoke to you, drop a comment. Tell me where you are in your journey. Or share a small win you have had recently, because those matter more than you think.